Hi guys, welcome back to another podcast. Today we're joined with...
Hi guys, my name is Zeb and I'm a law student.
I'm Fatima.
I'm Saheba.
I'm Jaffa.
Right, so today's part 2 of the podcast about women and discrimination and stereotypes. So who'd like to kick it off?
Well, I think, Zeb, do you want to kick it off on where you guys left off from last week?
So we basically left off, we were talking about women getting horned at, and
Catcalling.
the first question is, have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yeah.
Straight up,
elaborate?
Yeah.
So I think probably catcalling for me, in my experience, it kind of started, I'd say, around about puberty, so 13, 14, which you can see how young that of an age is. And I think that shows the actual extremity of the problem. It's young girls. It's not, when you think about catcalling, you think of maybe a teenage girl, a bit older, 18, 19. What about you, Saheba?
Yeah, we spoke about it last week, briefly, I guess. We were just saying that it's just so common that we've become so used to it, and I think it's bad that we've become used to it because it's look, we've normalized
I think the fact it becomes normalized, that leads into other problems.
Yeah.
Where it's more of a drastic consequence that can happen. And because we allow it, we normalize that. It's just boys being boys, they can't really control what they say.
Yeah.
They're not as mature as girls are. I think that's a bit of a cop-out. It's a bit of stupid reasoning, if you ask me. Because when you say stuff like that, oh, boys are just boys, they don't mature as fast as girls, I think that's actually so stupid, because then you don't really hear people saying, boys, look at girls as an example of leadership, of responsibility. It's kind of just let them get away with it until until they turn about 40 years old, because I think that kind of saying, oh, girls mature faster than boys, it's not true at all. It's just that girls are stopped and they're told off at starting around puberty to stop doing certain things in which boys are allowed to carry on into adulthood, into their manhood, and they're allowed to mess around in their 20s up until in their 30s even, and then they hit their 40s. They're allowed to establish their careers. They don't get criticized for that, instead of choosing their career over their families, which I think is a real problem women face, because we're told to find our soulmates, get married in our 20s, have your children young because you've got an expiry date on you. Do you know what I mean? It's all of that kind of crap that's fed into little girls, and I think that kind of starts when we're told about puberty in school, and when we're taught kind of the girls and boys are separate. The boys are taught about all of their stuff that they're allowed to do, and then girls are kind of you need to be a bit more reserved, your body's changing, and all of that. And I think it's kind of iffy. So when we do become in our 20s, it kind of stunts that kind of growth that women are allowed to go through now, and men. So yeah, that's kind of
yeah.
So
what do you guys think of that?
Last week we talked about the glass ceiling.
Okay.
So where men and women, they may have the same jobs, but the pays are different.
Pay gap.
The pay gap, but we talked about that being entirely wrong.
So sexism in the workplace.
In the sense that look, they have the same job, they're doing the same thing, yet there's still a massive difference between the pay.
Not even pay, but also just opportunities. I don't think women get as much.
I think so when CEOs or the people who are hiring people, the employers, they're less likely to hire women due to the fact that if that woman decides to go on maternity leave, they'll need to pay that maternity leave, they'll need to pay someone else to fill her role. So it's kind of biases like that, which obviously now is illegal. There's actually an act where you're not allowed to discriminate due to gender and sex. So of course no CEO or any employer is going to say on camera, on record, that, oh yeah, I didn't hire this woman because she's a woman. They're obviously going to have a cop-out excuse, but this still happens, and I think that unconscious bias that you can't eliminate, that's kind of in everyone. So I think everyone has an unconscious bias, whether that's something to do with racism, sexism, ageism. It's there, and I think the way to kind of get rid of, trying to dilute that unconscious bias is first being aware that you have it, and then education as well, teaching it, when instead of bringing that into the education system about biases, discrimination and all that, maybe not just maths and English.
Yeah,
I think that's really important.
They should be taught like I think we talked about last week, that it should be taught up from a young age. From, let's say, look, the primary school, I don't think it should be taught then because they're way too young, they won't understand. Once they hit secondary school, year 7, year 8, year 9, that's when they need to be taught, look, these things are apparent, these things are real, these things 100%, happen in society, like, it's obvious, the statistics, everything's out there.
Exactly, like, I didn't, like, so all these issues I'm going to talk about, I wasn't even aware of them until I got to year 12, which is what, 16, 17?
Which is really late, yeah.
Yeah, like, I was so shocked, like, all my secondary school years, I was so ignorant to these, like, problems that women actually face. That,
the thing is, I wouldn't say ignorant. I feel like he just said, we're not educated on it, so it's not like we even are aware in the first place that we have to ignore it. I don't 100%.
Know. It's just the way, I think it's a more patriarchal. It's patriarchal. Like,
yeah, that's why
it's rooted in patriarchy. Yeah, no, 100%. That is definitely a big, massive contributing factor.
Men are always meant to be on top. That's what.
Exactly, because that's how society's been set up. If you're looking at it through a capitalistic point of view, you know, it is 100% patriarchy because that's the way society's been set up for centuries. Because obviously, centuries ago, men were the dominating kind of figures in society. Women weren't allowed to do literally anything. If you're talking about the entire world, even still today, I think that is a big, massive problem that we face. Like, and like we bring it back to the workplace. Who is it majority in those CEOs positions? What gender? It's mainly men because they're kind of more put forward for those positions, and I think that's just ridiculous.
As you can see, like now there are more women that are becoming CEOs, becoming actually like opening their own businesses, and then they're giving more opportunities to women.
Yeah, 100%. I think like the initiatives that women in business are now taking, I think that's generally for our kind of generation. I think that's changing a lot for us. More as like the older generation, you kind of see that there where it's more like men in those positions, men getting those opportunities. And I think that's really good that we are changing. We are kind of the generation who are kind of breaking through those glass ceilings, actually making those opportunities equal for everyone and making sure, basically teaching the younger generations that if you speak out, your voice will be heard, if you know what I mean. That it's okay to have an opinion, your voice, like you do matter in society, because I feel like the older generations, it was kind of like, women, the kitchens, men, go do your thing. It was not kind of like
it's more like
inclusive.
Women stay at home, they cook, they clean, they look after.
Yeah, disclaimer, like I'm not saying if you want to be a housewife, if you want to stay at home, like that is a bad thing at all. I don't think that's a bad thing if you do choose that. It's just that element of autonomy, like choice.
Yeah,
you should 100%. Have the choice to either want to go and have a career, or if you want to stay at home. But I think that's a problem as well. Like I think the last couple of decades, right, women have kind of this whole kind of movement with feminism, liberal feminism. Women are allowed to go into the corporate sector, but they've also kind of now, it's kind of like they have almost an obligation to fill both domains of the domestic and the corporate. So if a woman tells you, oh no, I don't have a degree, I want to stay at home, in today's society, you'd look at that woman and be like, you're a bit backwards, aren't you? But then let's say when she gets to her 30s and she says, yeah, I've prioritized a career over my children, over having a family, you're kind of like,
that's also bad, yeah.
Exactly. So they get crapped on for that as well. 100%. Do you know what I mean? So I think they've had that obligation put on them,
so
put on
no
us.
Way of winning for them.
Yeah, whereas men can still today, they've got that obligation of going, providing for their family, but they don't have that obligation of taking care of that, choosing like the family over the career.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, it's really unfair if you look at it. I mean, what's that saying? It's kind of like when a mother parents a child, it's like parenting, whereas when the father does it, it's babysitting. You just look at that.
So true.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have a question. So do you guys think now society's changed in the way that women have more like opportunities, or do you think it's decreasing or it's staying the same as it was so ever many years ago?
100%. I think a lot of things have changed. So obviously and that's obviously partly due to the law, kind of like we have to, it's not, you're not allowed to, like I said before, you're not allowed to discriminate against women because they're women. You're not allowed to, women are allowed to work, we've got the vote, kind of all of that social change I think is brilliant. But then there are issues of that kind of like bias against women, which I think has been a lot more covert, rather than like, whereas decades ago, you could literally say derogatory terms to women, and it wouldn't be that bad.
Rafa, anything to add?
Okay, yeah.
No, we carry on, man. Let her take the lead. I mean,
What do you guys think there's
Yeah.
been many more changes, or
I feel like there has, but it's still not enough, and there's still like a really long way to go.
100%?
Oh, actually, can I say a comment? Actually, that point you just made, I think we've kind of, in the last couple of weeks, we've taken a big, massive step back with what's happened in the news recently with the abortion
law.
law in
Yeah, we spoke
America,
about it last
the
week as well.
overturning of Roe versus Wade. So, do you know what that kind of means, like, of the overturn of that case? So, America, their judicial system, the way it's based on is a lot of case law. So, they'll get their law from a lot of the cases and the Constitution. So, the overturning of this case, so in this decision at the end of the trial, it was kind of made that the judges said, yeah, okay, abortion is allowed nationwide. Whereas now the judges have said, yeah, we're kind of saying no now, we're overturning that, which leads to so many more problems.
I think,
Like-
especially when the women, let's say, in the scenario that they've been raped or
Incestual,
sexually abused,
exactly, incestual relationships.
They have no right, like, it feels
Or
like
even
they-
the mother's
yeah.
health. Like, I read this story on Instagram. This woman, she was sharing her pregnancy story, and essentially she was told that, I think she's about 4 months pregnant, 4 or 5 months pregnant, and she said that her baby, the doctors have literally told her that if you give birth to this child, the baby's going to die and your health will be put at risk. So the doctors quickly put in a plan in place saying when to put the abortion date, because she chose to not maybe give birth to that child. And the fetus was actually having seizures inside her womb, in which was causing her immense pain and the child immense pain as well. So it was kind of like a mercy at the end of the day. But then, of course, with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, because this happened in America, she thought she was kind of safe, because the law might not go into effect until a couple of months, she thought. But the doctor actually rang her up, said, yeah, we're stopping all abortions straight away. And she now has to carry this baby to term, and the baby will essentially die, and will be in more pain in the next couple of months. That if that doesn't show the ridiculousness of overturning decisions like this.
So that's why on some hand, like, I would say it's gone better, but this just shows that it hasn't, like,
I mean,
what you just said.
Yeah, like, I watched a documentary as well about abortion when it wasn't legal in the USA, and this 15-year-old, well, she was older in the documentary, and she said when she was 15 she was raped by her grandfather, and she fell pregnant, and when she told her mother
Didn't believe her.
didn't, like, not even believed her, like, just like really
Shrugged it off.
yeah, like belittled her and kind of said it was her fault. So she felt so bad that she thought she had to take action herself, and she basically, the old methods of abortion, like you cut, what's it called, like a hanger. She got a hanger in a mirror, and she now cannot have children because she performed that procedure on herself, and she messed it. Do you know what I mean? So having taken that choice away of it done professionally and in a safe environment, it just, if abortion is murder, what are we doing now then? What if women, when they do backdoor abortions, where it's incredibly more unsafe?
Unsanitary conditions.
Yeah, exactly. And doctors are what's the penalty against them now? It's like life in prison if any doctor in the USA is seen administering abortions. If we put in sanctions on doctors, that's ludicrous. They're meant to be like the healers in society, like, caregivers.
Practically the heroes.
Yeah,
They're like heroes of the society.
exactly. They do a lot more
If anything,
than
they
most
should be making
politicians
the laws.
do. Let's be honest.
Why did they make it on abortion?
Exactly.
It's just a bit weird.
It is, like, especially because women, let's say, if they're gonna die, if they give birth, they're gonna die. They've been told 100%, look, this is gonna happen to you if you give birth. Then the choice that they used to have, where they could get an abortion, now they can't. Like, what they're gonna do? They're literally stuck. It's either go backdoor abortion, like,
Which has its risks.
literally has its risk, unsanitary. It could end up 10 times worse, like, where you can't have kids
Exactly.
anymore. Then, or just give birth to the baby and die.
It's
That
either
goes
way,
through
it's
that
shit.
pain.
Either way, it's just.
Imagine the amount of trauma then.
Mm.
It's that America is just. And who decided this? Old white men, because they really know what having a baby is like.
yeah, but if a woman is gonna die when she gives birth and it's illegal to give an abortion, them old white men should technically get charged with murder
Exactly.
Because-
If abortion is murder, what is that?
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
grown-ass
They're not
woman's
giving
died.
them the chance to
Exactly.
actually like do something about it because they know.
Because the doctors are now being sanctioned as well. They've been told, so they're not going to risk their license
For
for
someone
just
else.
this one abortion.
Mhm.
But I don't get like what's their thought process when they think of laws like that. Honestly, like I want to
It
know.
comes back to control, doesn't it?
Could they even
The
like,
power and
let's say
control.
if a woman wanted to have an abortion, go to a different country and get an abortion?
Yeah, but
So-
imagine how expensive.
Yeah,
that
the
is.
money and all that.
True, you got a
So
point.
sad.
Do you know what I mean? And then there you go. They control the kind of money, financial aspect of it.
Yeah,
Only
but,
women who are a bit more
The upper class
have that
kind of
luxury
people,
of
yeah.
spending money on a plane ticket, maybe coming to the UK, and having an abortion performed on them. They have that luxury.
It's literally
Whereas
like so traumatizing,
And if you think
and
about,
then it's
like-
more therapy, then
yeah.
it's more money.
girls in like
Legit.
lower income families or from communities where they don't have a lot of money, what about them who fall pregnant and they want an abortion and they can't now have access to that?
There's a lot of problems with society in the sense that they say they're trying to make it better, but in the sense that they're doing things that only the upper class are going to be
entitled
to. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just odd.
It's ludicrous.
What
if
what
anything.
they're thinking in their heads is just weird in the sense that they're trying to make society better in the sense that they're taking away abortion.
Yeah.
They're not allowing abortion yet. What's it called? Let's say a woman's gonna die if she doesn't have the abortion. Then what? They're literally just killing a person practically.
Exactly.
Their,
And
their death is on their
hands.
But me and Fatima say this all the time, right? We have this conversation. We're like, do we even want to raise kids in this society? Like, I want to know what you lot think of that. Like, would you wanna? Like, what do you think about
I mean,
bringing up
It's
kids?
entirely up to upbringing. Like the way
Yeah,
if you-
100%. But this
if you
society,
raise
like,
a
is.
child- It is. It is.
I know. I just did the same.
It is, but look,
You
so
can cut it out.
in the sense that look, if you raise the child in a good way, in the sense that you're teaching him, look, this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
For example, look at the way that, let's say, we've been raised. So our parents have told us from a young age what's right and what's wrong. Some people don't have the access to that, the luxury of that, in the sense that, let's say, they're living with a single parent household. Let's say the dad's not there, the mum's not there.
Yeah.
So they don't have the access to that. So let's say we're lucky in the sense that we've got both parents there. We've got-
Teaching us difference between
us-
right and
exactly, teaching us what's right and what's wrong. But that's not, in the end, that's not enough. It comes up to you. Let's say with me, I've got two younger sisters, and they're literally my queens. I love them so much. They're literally my, like, everything. So anything that happens, like, I think in my head, look, what if someone did that to my sister? What if someone did that to my mum?
Oh.
What any single like woman in my family, I was thinking, what if someone did that to them? There's me thinking, like, that's entirely wrong. Like, what's gonna happen
Yeah,
here?
100%. I think that's a good reasoning to have. But I do kind of have like a bit
I know what
of
she's
a-
gonna say.
I have a bit of a issue with that kind of saying when boys say that to me, like, oh, like, what if someone did that to my sister? Don't talk about my sister like that. Don't talk about my mum like that. But shouldn't you just view
Think not to do that
women
anyways.
as just human beings who deserve that respect, regardless of any relation you have with females in terms of like familial relationships, like your cousins, your sisters, your mothers. Because I think I saw this.
That's what I was
this
saying last
parade for like it was kind of like this feminist march, and it said it was kind of about like this. I saw this massive placard that said she's somebody's sister, she's somebody's mother, she's somebody's daughter, niece, and it had the kind of, you know, when it says daughter, niece, and all of that, it had crossed out, and at the bottom it said she's a human being. That should be reasoning enough to not do anything to a woman. Do you know what I mean? Why is that not reasoning enough that we're just human beings? Why is that we need to be? You know what? That comes with like there's this theory called the Madonna-Whore dichotomy. Have any of you heard of that? I think so. Basically,
We did in
men.
English.
It's kind of men view women in society in two boxes: the Madonna and the whore. So the Madonna is basically like the virgin, so the idealized female, the mother figure, the nurturing one, the one who doesn't go out and party and, you know, stays at home, looks after her family, puts her family first, all of that. Whereas the whore is kind of like, you know, the girl who goes out a lot, is a bit rebellious, speaks her mind a lot, and they see the idealized female as the Madonna and the whore as someone they can treat like trash and then discard. So
They were all human.
exactly. So I think that comes back to a lot of root problems that boys are taught from such a young age to view women as these two things, when in fact we're so much more. Just how men are a lot more than being providers and, you know, being walking wallets or anything like that. They're a lot more like, do you know what I mean? So why aren't women afforded the same thought process? Why is it we have to be someone's sister? Like, I've had so many disagreements with boys where I'm standing up on a friend's behalf and they've done something to my friend, and I'll say to them, what if someone did that to your sister? And then they'll have like that whole kind of aggy kind of front on where they'll be like, don't talk about my sister like that. And I go, but if someone had done that to your sister, would you not want a friend like to stand up on their behalf? So why is it you're now getting confrontational with me? So the double standard there, and then they kind of like taken aback, and I'm just like, well, really, do I need to explain that to you?
No, but then what about upbringing? So do you think it comes up to upbringing the way a person's been raised?
100%. I do feel like
it's the whole nature nurture thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
the whole debate. Nature versus nurture. I feel like you have, as a parent, you only really have 7 to 8 years to really get your kind of whatever, how you want to raise a child. You've only got those crucial, 7 to 8 years, and I'm stretching it there because when they turn about 8-7 years old, it's not that you have your own opinions or anything. You start kind of
thinking for yourself.
Yeah, a little bit. Do you know what I mean? And you obviously your thoughts and stuff, they're easily malleable and stuff. They can be brainwashed and stuff. And I think it comes to about 14, 15 where you kind of solidify your own opinions. Even then, it can still change.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? So it's sometimes you can be the best parent in the world, and your son and daughter can still be the most horrible person when they grow up. Do you know what I mean?
You know the thing about feminism, I've realised that I feel like a lot, you know, when you do speak to a lot of guys about it, they take it as like an attack, as if we're like trying to say, no, we're better than you. But the thing about feminism that people don't understand is that we're trying to say we're equal. We're not better, we're not worse, we're not anything less, we're not anything more. 100%. A lot of guys take it like it's an attack, but it's not meant like that. We're just kind of trying to get that justice that we deserve. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, because we haven't had it for so long.
We've got so much things
a whole millennia we haven't had it.
Yeah. We've been oppressed throughout the ages practically. When what's it called? Let's say I heard a story about when there was a war in I can't remember what country. The women of that city practically, or that area, all the women would get raped if they left their house at a certain time.
Yeah.
The women would get raped, and then that's me thinking like, what the hell, like what's happening there?
And that still happens today. It's not something that's archaic or something that happened in the past. That happens today, every day in Syria, every day in Iraq, every day in Palestine. And is there any change? No. But
they're making changes in the abortion area.
Society. We live in UK, we're so privileged. So when we see it, it's kind of like, oh my god, wow. When in fact, it's like so shocking to us, but in fact to them it's a reality. That's their everyday.
They have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's sad to say, but they have to deal with all that stuff. Being oppressed like that, being raped, practically it could happen on a daily basis. Like, it's just sad.
Exactly. I think if we're talking about if we're bringing it back to like a Western domain, in the UK, I've actually got some statistics to say. So this is the England and Wales kind of rape they put together a study. They do it every year, basically tracking sexual crimes around the UK. Of course, this is 2021 because 2022 hasn't finished. So the report will come out in the end of the year. This is what they found. 1 in 4 women have been raped or sexually assaulted as an adult. 1 in 6 children have been sexually abused. And 1 in 20 men have been raped or sexually assaulted as an adult. And the highest ever number of rapes was recorded by the police the year ending December 2021 was 67,125.
In the UK?
Yeah.
That's not even in the world.
England and Wales. And that's just reported crime, remember?
Oh
there
my God,
is so much unreported crime.
I'm pretty sure like 40% is only reported.
5 in 6 rapes against women are carried out by someone they know. That's what they found. That was, again, that's just reported crimes.
Women find it embarrassing or they're
ashamed.
Too scared.
It's a shame thing.
They're too scared to actually say, look, I've been raped, I need help. Like, that's one thing I think that needs to be put out there more. Look, you're not alone. You're always going to have someone there to support you, to help you out. You just need to go to the right place. That's what I think. Like, it needs to be broadcasted more. There needs to be more things like let's say on TV. When have you ever seen like an advert about rape?
I think because they say, oh no, it's too like inappropriate or like it's a
No, but that's the thing. It needs to be shown.
exactly.
Let's say, look,
The 13 Reasons
kids
Why
are
was
not
really
gonna
good for that.
Kids are
Oh,
not
that was
going to
so
be
good.
watching
Yeah.
like what BBC News. Kids are not going to be watching ITV, whatever. Where all these shows, where what's it called, Emmerdale, EastEnders, whatever. Come on, like kids
They'll
are not
never
gonna be watching
show that.
This,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
You need to show it on the TV. Look, you're not alone. There's people there to help you.
But that's what I'm just saying.
100%.
You know, 13 Reasons Why they got so much backlash for the amount of things that they spoke about, like rape and
was-
all that stuff. They're like, oh, why are you showing it? People need to see it, see the reality.
Exactly.
People live that shit every day.
Because that last episode of when it did depict the rape scene,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people were taken aback of just seeing it on screen. So if you are so shocked and disgusted by watching it and just happening,
Imagine
like,
flipping living
imagine
it.
the woman who's going through it. Do you know what I mean? It's, but also another kind of like a bit of the other side of the coin of what you've said. Like always go tell someone you know, tell the police. See, the thing is, in England and Wales, to prove rape from like a legal standpoint, it's very, very hard. Because the way the act is and what you kind of need to show as a barrister, solicitor in a court
Like all consent and stuff.
it's that consent part. The actus reus, sorry, the
Laws
the
coming in.
actual exactly the laws is going on.
coming in.
So the actual act, that's kind of the physical part of it, that can be easier to demonstrate. It's the kind of mental aspect of the intention, the malicious intention.
Evidence.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, I've just got another statistic to say. In England and Wales, more than 99% of rapes reported to the police did not end in a conviction.
More than 99%.
So that leaves 1%.
Yeah, exactly. And this
not
was an
even 1%,
article
less.
written by the University of London and published on April 1st, 2022. And this is this year.
99%.
That's what
Anyone
I'm
who
saying.
hears that statistic will not want to go to the police with that case.
That's the thing. With like proving it, you're gonna need like evidence as
And
in
the thing-
DNA.
The best
and
thing
all
to
that stuff.
do
And then
if
the women,
yeah,
with like the DNA test, like the women, they might be embarrassed because
Do you know- exactly, because you have to-
evidence.
and to
Yeah.
ask a woman to then tell the story of what happened, you're asking her essentially to relive that entire
And then
experience.
with when they actually are saying it, they're gonna ask questions like, "What were you wearing?
Very,
What were you doing?"
and
out
that feeds into
late?
rape culture,
Literally,
which is another
what you
topic I
doing
think
out
should be
late
spoken
at night,
about.
Why you wearing them revealing clothes? Like, what's the point asking them questions? The woman has been raped. She's saying she's been raped. Why do you need to ask them questions that what's she wearing? Why is she out at that time? That's got nothing to do with you in the sense that what's it called? Why can she not be out at that time?
And why can't she not
Or
wear
is it
wherever she
illegal
wants?
to be out at a certain time at night? No, it's not. If men can be out till whatever time in the
Exactly.
morning,
Look when
why can't it be
with that
women?
Sarah Everard thing that happened. We know when the that Baroness, she said that statement of, oh, we should enforce curfews on men. You know, she wasn't serious about that. She was just making a bold statement and saying, and then watching the backlash of how every single man on the internet then started saying, oh my God, look how they're trying to control us. Blah blah. Look at that. Look, it's against men. This and that. And then she came out with a statement about a week later saying, look how, like, the massive social media push that we got. When we started controlling men, whereas Sarah Everard, who was raped and murdered by a police officer, that news story died down, and it was now this one statement that she said that kind of got blown up. Look at that, and it's just a statement just to see how much
The reaction.
the actual reality of it, how men will stand up for their rights, but when a woman wants to stand up for her rights, it's kind of like, what are you doing? Go
gotta
on, sit
go
back
now.
down.
So
Do you know what I mean?
let's go into this. So Asian culture, like the Pakistani.
Oh, wow.
That's a whole other topic.
So
That's
let's
a whole other
talk
topic
about
for
South
next week.
Asian.
So yeah, see you then.
yeah, let's take a little
Okay.
break. 1 second. So the next topic, as we said before, is about the South Asian background, Pakistani, Bengali, and Indian, and
Afghanistan.
Afghanistani, so all that stuff. So their ideologies and their thoughts about women and how they are in society,
Treated
so
and
how
stuff.
they're treated. So guys, let's
Start it off
start.
with
So-
the South Asian women.
South Asian women. So in my opinion,
Mm.
let's just say that I think women, they're not given the same, let me think, the same like
Opportunities.
opportunities. Yeah, exactly. The same opportunities, the same chances as men. For example, let's say if a man wants to move out the city and do his studies, the parents the family will say, yeah, but then go. You go, you get your degree, you go do whatever you need to do, as long as your pay is fine. A woman, oh, I want to go Leeds. They live in Bradford. I want to go Leeds and study whatever, dentistry, optometry, whatever they want to study. No, stay at home. You got Bradford University around the corner. What's your guys' opinions on that?
I think, okay, so I can't really speak from that experience because my mum and dad, the way I've been raised, they've always said, you can go wherever you want.
So, Manchester last time we spoke.
Yeah, so...
No, I said London.
London,
Yeah,
Manchester,
yeah,
that
yeah.
was fine. And I think it's kind of like a problem that we face as girls, though. That is definitely some girls' truths, as South Asian girls. That is definitely a truth that they can relate to. So, again, it comes back to that kind of like parenting of like, because things can go wrong if you jail your child. If you jail your child so much, that rebellion that happens is a lot more drastic than what you initially think that they're going to do when they go out. And I think South Asian parents, they don't open up a lot because I think that it's that kind of community thing, isn't it? Like the way they were raised, they're kind of like, keep your feelings unlocked, don't really open up emotionally.
Yeah, especially when it comes to mental health.
Yeah,
as well,
South Asian and mental health. Mom, I want to go to a therapist. What? Is it because you're on your phone too much?
Exactly, I was just about to say that. We said that.
Imagine being in like a therapy with like your family and then with like a white therapist and they're like, okay, whoever has the feeling stick, you can talk. And your mum's just like, sure, let's get out of here. Do you know what I mean? I think that is kind of like a what I was saying to you before, Sahib, like every generation has their war. And I think for us, it's kind of like breaking through the barrier. One of them is like the barriers between mental health and trying to convince like your parents that mental health is just as important as physical health.
There, but they don't
Not even that's important. It actually exists.
It exists. Yeah,
it's
exactly,
not
exists.
the fact that, you know.
We just don't. It's in the South Asian background. We don't really go into it as much in the sense that we won't talk about it.
There's a limit. I feel like.
Like, look, if we're stuck in our room, let's say if we're going through mental health issues, we're stuck in our room, we're sat down, always in our room. Our parents are gonna think, oh, he's on the phone, or she's on
playing
the phone.
Xbox.
Literally, like that's what goes through their mind, and they're thinking.
Yeah, they jail their children.
That's why they're upset, because you're not letting them out. You're not letting them do things that normal, like anyone would do.
Any
really.
young
And I
person
understand.
should be doing.
Do you know what I can see both sides of why South Asian parents do say that, because they do at the end of the day, it's probably coming from a place of love and protection, where they just really want to protect their children. Because when they probably moved to England, coming from India, coming from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, they did probably face overt racism, like, and a lot more. They went through, our parents went through a lot more racism. Exactly.
Like getting treated like trash.
Yeah, and then we've kind of grown up as second, third generation British, Pakistani, or British people in Britain. Like, we've grown up here, born and raised. They weren't, so we kind of adapted to this way of living a lot faster and a lot quicker and better than they did.
So I think, in the next few generations, I think it's most likely going to improve. It is going to improve, but then again, you will have some people that you can say are backwards, that people say backwards, that they're going to say they're not going to agree to it, but it will improve in the sense that it's going to become more apparent. It's going to become 100% more
But
apparent.
I think Taylor, bringing back the conversation towards like women and like South Asian women, you do know there's like a saying in India that having a baby girl is like watering someone else's garden. So like, do you know what that kind of...
So they're just going to go, basically.
Yeah, because they have, I think some cultures in India, they have the dowry where when a woman gets married, her family has to pay the man, the groom, a significant amount, like a certain amount of money, or land, whatever. And then, so if they have like a lot of daughters, imagine how much money from that family. And India is a lot of the places are in extreme poverty. I mean, that's the reason why that is. It goes back to like colonialism, but that's a topic for another day, I guess. But do you know what I mean? That just how, and infanticide in South Asia. Do you know what that is? Infanticide. So that's killing of infants. The way it is between baby girls and baby boys is significantly.
The boys are seen as kings.
Yeah.
Like they've been. Once you have a baby boy, let's say in India, like you said, they're gonna be getting money, so they're gonna be over the moon. They're gonna be
exactly
so
having.
happy.
Yeah, exactly. They having more males in your family means more wealth. It means more prosperity for your family. So I think just right there, it's that that caste. They have like that caste system as well, which I think is utter
Some castes are shunned upon,
BS.
Some castes are saying, some castes are like,
I'm gonna say
so
it, like,
high
I'm
up.
sorry if I offend anyone, but the entire caste system is complete BS.
It is.
If any, like, does anyone like disagree? Like,
Not really.
no,
100%. Like, what's caste got to do with it? You're a human being. It doesn't matter what village you come from, whatever you are, like, it does not matter. Like, 100%, it does not matter because
exactly.
you're human. At the end of the day, most humans want to get married. They want to have their own kids. Like, what's caste got to do with it? What's where you're from got to do with it?
That's why I feel like it's hard to be like a girl in general, but a Asian girl, that's like a whole other
It's
like hardship.
that comes back to kind of intersectional feminism. If you guys have heard that term. So basically, feminism, it has a lot of different aspects. I label myself as an intersectional feminist. So essentially, that kind of is looking at feminism, but like saying kind of, if I could put in one sentence, it's say equality is unequal or unequal. So within feminism, so obviously feminism is looking at women and kind of how they're oppressed, their kind of discrimination that they face. But then if you go even further to white women and women of colour, the discrimination that happens there is a whole nother level, which I think we can speak
to be
about.
addressed,
So
yeah.
there's like a race element to it as well as the gender element. And I think just as a South Asian girl, the things that we face of like, I think not myself, I haven't faced any honour killing threats or anything, but that is a threat that some South Asian girls do face, even in a British society.
Especially when they're wearing the hijab or they're wearing the niqab or anything. If they're wearing even a abaya, like they might be said like, oh, you're a terrorist or you're this, because
Yeah.
I remember once my teacher told me this story, my old RE teacher. Shout out to Miss Khan. So basically, right, so with her, she was on the bus one time and there was loads of white people in that bus and they were all staring at her, calling her a terrorist, calling her this, calling her that. And there's me thinking like, what the hell, when she's literally the kindest soul you ever meet. The only reason they said that to her because she was wearing a abaya and she was wearing a scarf. And then even in, let's say, look in France right now, the hijab is banned. Then again, you can't just say the hijab is banned. Every single like religious thing is banned. For example, wearing the cross, that's banned as well. But then again, there's more.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
it's
didn't
banned.
know
Like
that.
you're not allowed to show your religion outdoors practically.
What about like nuns and stuff?
I don't.
Even
I
there,
And where they're
the whole like.
They're
the
not
sort
allowed
of-
because they put that law out.
See,
there.
I think that comes back to controlling women and their bodies.
Mhm.
That comes back to that.
It
It's
is
not
men
even.
as well because like, a lot of men wear their what's it called? Let's say they wear the crucifix on the neck.
Yeah,
around
or
the
like
neck, so
Jewish men, the kippah.
They're not allowed to wear that no more because of whatever law they put out there.
Yeah.
They're just not allowed. Let's say women getting called letterboxes when they're wearing the niqab.
Boris Johnson.
Literally, Boris Johnson literally said letterboxes.
Exactly, but he see the thing is Boris Johnson, right? I think because he puts this like ridiculous character on show where he's just a bit of a bumbling idiot on like in the media. That's how we see him. So we exactly look. The reaction is that you start laughing and you take him as a
Because
joke.
it's true.
When in reality, it's a lot more sinister. The way he thinks, the way I feel like his ideology
He's
is.
got that old white
It's that
man
covert
ideology.
racism, which I think obviously now if you say the N word or if you say the P word, like you get a lot of backlash. So now it's more covert, the kind of racism, the
It
sexism.
gets covered up.
Yeah,
Like they say things, but they won't get.
It's like a masked
They
up
won't
version.
get the backlash that if a normal person and a standard person, let's say a normal white person said that, he said the P word or the N word. You know what I mean? If they said that, they'd get a lot of backlash towards that because it's like they consider it. The people that they're saying to,
yeah.
they will 100% consider it racist. But why, when Boris Johnson, just because he's the not anymore, he's the prime minister, ex-prime minister, he literally called them letterboxes.
And he said derogatory terms towards black people as
Literally,
well.
like he said so much stuff. Why isn't he getting the backlash? Just 'cause
Boris,
he's rich,
I'm gonna say
'cause
this. As a Boris Johnson, if you are a person of color, Boris Johnson does not care about you.
100%.
Why are you
He has
supporting
that old white
conservatives?
person ideology.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Hitler to me.
Well, going back to that whole terrorist thing of women dresses in hijabs and stuff, women can't win because if they're wearing hijabs and abayas and whatever, they're getting called a terrorist.
And if they're not wearing it, they get called
if
the
they're
S
not wearing
word.
really tight clothes, they're getting called a slag, so they can't win. What do you want them to
So
wear?
What do we do?
Like,
What-
like
okay,
we were talking
question
about.
to the
The
men.
makeup.
What is it you want us to do?
It's, you know what,
Well, actually, we don't care. Show.
A a man can go outside in just his shorts, no top on, no nothing,
Yeah,
right?
if a woman does that,
If a woman does that,
sorry.
it's eyes,
All
nails,
hell
corns,
breaks
and
loose.
everything.
Then again, now it's, let's say if a white girl does that, she won't get as much like
If
backlash. If an Asian person does
if
that,
an Asian girl
because
does that,
it's in our culture
sure,
in
to
our
be a bit more
religion,
modest,
to be modest, we're not wearing enough like really tight clothes, wearing like showing your body
body
practically.
essentially, yeah.
With the man, if the man's what's it called in Islam, the man has to cover
Aura,
his belly button,
his
to the
navel to his
knee.
bottom of his
And that
kneecap,
comes
isn't it?
before talking about the women.
Then,
Exactly. I
that's
think
there.
that's religion. I think that's it's not culture, and that's what happens in our
Yeah.
culture. It gets mixed up
up.
with religion, and by religion we mean like Islam. So that gets intertwined a lot, I think, which is really dangerous and quite bad. And I think they should be kept separate because I believe that religion is the one truth.
Well, have you ever noticed when a man's saying something to a woman, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that? They say it from a religious point of
Of
view.
you.
But most religions, especially Islam, yeah, you're taught to respect women. The Prophet used to cook for his wife, clean for his wife. You're taught heaven under
Exactly.
your
Your mother's
Or the
feet.
mother's feet, yeah.
When a man has a daughter, she opens the doors of heaven for him.
Yeah, 100%.
So you can't go and say to a woman, you can't do this, you can't do that. Islamically, because Islamically, men are supposed to respect women anyway. You're
Anyway.
disrespecting her by telling
You see,
her
people,
what she can and can't
they
do.
get during the ayahs of the Quran. This is specifically said like this stuff said in there, right? But people interpret it in a completely
they
wrong
take
In a
it
way
out
that
of
it would benefit
context.
them.
Like let's say when they say women can't work, nothing says that a woman cannot work. They can work, but it said there's certain ayat saying that there's certain like rules for them.
I
whenever
think,
they gotta work.
when we're talking about like ayahs of the Quran or something, you should be a bit careful because obviously you don't want to interpret anything wrong or anything.
People take it out.
Yeah,
completely
essentially,
out of context.
exactly. Islam is such a peaceful religion. Why is it gonna oppress women? Do you know what I mean? And if anything, we get the meher, which is a dowry for us. When we get married, we're allowed to set a certain amount, and it can be anything. Again, it can be anything.
You don't even have to be money.
Exactly.
It could literally be like
Anything.
a cat or like
Right.
anything.
Like,
I have a bit of a problem.
that is-
What? The cat.
Right, what do you not have a problem with?
Like, people are doing that now. They're
I'm
saying,
joking, I
just
get
want a
you
kitten. I want a kitten. I want
Yeah.
this, I want that.
No, but it's not even a kitten. I've seen women do, I want him to do this for me every week. I want him to take me shopping once a month. I want him to do this. That's better than, I want $1,000, I want $5,000.
Exactly.
Have you guys seen the clean girl makeup?
Yeah.
Have
like-
you seen
well,
like the
like, I know-
criticism with
yeah.
it?
Can't you do it?
No, there's
Yeah,
backlash with
yeah.
No, there's backlash with that because apparently,
Clean girl makeup.
which
What
I
is that,
completely
though?
agree with. Have you seen?
So I
basically,
know what clean girl makeup is. So
What
that
is
kind of natural
it's essentially
look,
like,
Oh,
minimal makeup, kind of minimum kind of style.
and it's called clean
girl
girl.
makeup. So I've
But-
heard of the backlash against it, but I don't know exactly what it is. So.
Basically, it's more like associated, I guess, with white people. So it basically is trying to say like, oh look, white people are clean, like clean girl makeup. But then with Asians, it's like, are you calling us disgusting? Like, it's really, that's essentially what it is, really. So basically, yeah.
There's a lot of Asian guys that say, "Oh, she's putting art down on her face."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And if that comments like that does
Actually
not
makes me laugh.
help.
She's caked up. You know what I mean? It's not right in the sense that look, it's a woman. Let her do what she wants to do.
Exactly. She's not
Like,
affecting
who
you
are
by putting her
who are you
makeup
to
on.
judge a woman of what she does? Like, if she's
Why
wearing,
are you so concerned about what a woman, in terms of her makeup, on how she does it?
exactly?
Are
Like,
you not like
you've got no
secure
right.
in your
But also,
masculinity?
you know how,
are
like-
you that insecure as a man?
And you know how like guys say to girls like, oh, wear some makeup, like you need it, blah blah blah. Like, if you're gonna say that, then they're gonna want to wear it. So when they wear it, they're gonna say, why are you wearing too much?
Like, yeah.
You cannot win. You
Exactly
actually
what we're
can't.
talking about a woman.
Yeah.
If she wears makeup, she gets judged. If she doesn't wear makeup, she gets judged.
Because
Like,
guys want
there's
that
no winning.
natural girl look, but they don't understand. Natural girl look includes makeup. You do understand that, right? A lot of makeup
what
and
can you do?
powder.
Like, there's no way to win. Like, I don't know how you guys deal with it. I literally don't. Like,
We don't
with a
either.
guy,
Yeah.
it's a haircut.
You adapt.
It's
We're good
literally
at
a
adapting.
haircut, that's what it is. A haircut changes a guy. in
And growing
the
a beard.
sense that his facial features change when he gets a haircut.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that changes. But with the woman,
A
with a
woman.
woman, she has to wear, let's say, a guy says wear makeup.
But
then
also,
he
like,
says
people
don't
have
wear
this
too
assumption
much.
that they wear it to look nicer, which obviously, yeah, that's true. But
It's the
also,
woman's choice if she wants to wear
no,
it.
but
Like, they
also,
wear it to
I
please
do it for
men.
flipping therapy, bro. Like,
Yeah.
the best part of my day is when I wake up and I do it, and I literally spend a whole hour just like on myself, not on my phone, like actually doing something and being in the moment. Do you get it? Like,
Yeah, but that's the thing. You don't have to explain that to no one. If you want to
exactly. Like, I don't even owe that explanation to anyone.
Why do people
Exactly.
like
Why
to
is
do
it that we
this?
have to explain
that's
why
not
we
anyone's
wanna do
business.
it?
But that's
It's
what.
just people like to pick on little things, like saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, why are you wearing so much makeup?" They don't have anything
Because when you
better
pick
to
on
do.
those little things, when you start controlling the little things, it becomes so much easier
Bigger.
to control the bigger
Everything
things,
else, yeah.
the autonomy of a woman. And then that brings it back to the abortion thing, I guess, if that's the
Exactly,
best
it actually
example.
does
They have nothing better to do.
I
than
think
just like
a
judging on
man
people.
talking about fertility, I think, is one of the biggest icks I've ever experienced. Why is a man
what's one of
talking
your
about
biggest
another
icks?
woman's fertility? Why is it you talking about? Do you not have friends? Like, I'm sorry. Do you know anything better to talk
Exactly. There's
about?
so much things like to talk
Fertility
about.
is such a personal thing. So when I see these men on podcasts talking about like, oh, a woman, like the only thing they're really good for is like have babies, or you know, you have an expiry date 26. It's like, do you know
What's
how
the
harmful
needs?
that is
What's
for
the
other
needs?
women who are watching that podcast, let's say, and they're going through a struggle of having children, let's say, they really want a family, but they can't have it because they literally, their bodily organs, they're not like fused to work. Do you know what I mean? That can really affect a woman. You don't know how bad that can affect her because she's probably already getting crap from her family saying, why is it you're not having children?
And then
You know
you're
what I
going
mean?
on TikTok and,
And then,
seeing
and
someone
then you're
else
seeing
saying
other
it.
men saying, oh yeah, you're useless if you don't have a baby.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's genetics. Like, a woman can't control especially Asian women. A lot of Asian women have polycystic ovary syndrome, which is genetic. They can't help it.
Exactly, we don't
They
ask,
don't choose.
we don't
they
ask
don't
for
choose
it.
They're not. It's not. They're
If
not
God
choosing
did
the
that, then
fact-
why are you gonna
And I think
like?
people forget as well, men can have fertility issues too.
100%. Yeah.
Exactly. They wouldn't like that blasted all over TikTok, would they? Exactly. But that's not, because for so long, it was always the woman's fault if they're not having children. It was always
But
put
they
on the
don't
woman.
think about the
And then
man.
with advancement of technology and like medicine, science, it came to light that, yeah, men can also be, like, have fertility issues too. Which is why I think it's so private. It's such a personal thing between a man and a woman and between their relationship
What
and their
happens between
doctor.
closed doors is between the two
Exactly.
people. Like, if that door's closed, you have no right whatsoever to judge a person, because them two people, they can do whatever they'd like because they're doing it on their own. Literally, they
It's-
have their own
yeah.
country, they have whatever they want. They're doing it on their own. What right do you have to judge a person in the sense that, like, they're doing whatever they're doing? Like,
Exactly.
what is it to you? Yeah, if they don't want kids, they don't want kids. What can you do about that? You cannot say anything because that's their life. That's their
Yeah.
own choosing.
I think that comes back to like a saying I kind of believe and I kind of live by is you can't control what other people do, but you can control what you do and how
100%.
you react to certain kind of situations. Because sometimes you don't need to be confrontational all the time. Sometimes it is better to just sit back, listen to what everyone has to
The one
say.
thing is, the main people that are judging are these Asian aunties. These Asian aunties.
See, that's
they
just
say,
rich
"Look,
coming
you're
from them."
married and you're doing whatever. You're wearing whatever. You're wearing this much makeup. You're wearing these clothes. The Asian aunties. Oh, look what she's
Why are
doing.
you wearing so much
I think that
makeup?
comes back to that
Oh my God,
generational thing,
Literally,
doesn't
like,
it? That
it's-
I'm
generational
literally
divide.
speaking from my mind,
Backwards
like,
the way
what
that
I can
people
hear.
think. Like, what is it? What is it with them? Like, they're saying, look, you can't do this. They can't do that. They
That's
just the
actually, you know
backbiting.
what? That comes in terms of like that comes back to kind of what's it called? So men kind of use that in like a patriarchal sense. Comes back to patriarchy. Men using women to go against other women,
Yeah, I know what
and
you're
that
gonna
keeps
say.
them in. Like, if we're fighting each other as women,
They
it's
can,
easy
they can
for the men
sit
to
back and
control
watch
us. They can sit back and say, "Well, look at that. You can't even get on."
These Asian aunties judge women. They never
Yeah.
judge. They never judge Asian men. They'll always
The
Exactly.
man's seen as well.
Imagine
look,
their
he's up
sons.
there.
Like,
Oh
their
my
sons,
God, he's
my
watching
son
the
can do
house.
no
Oh my
wrong. He's the
gosh.
king and the prince of the world.
Well, my son's got 10 A levels. He's got this degree. He's
10
working for the.
Whereas,
the
Auntie, you
king
don't know what your
forever.
son's doing in
Literally,
night.
Yeah, your son's in the corner of the street selling drugs. That's why he's got a big
Exactly.
car. That's why he's got a nice car. He's not working for whatever. He's not working.
It's
for
not even
Private
that deep. It's like
whatever.
my son hoovered today. Oh my
God,
God!
like,
Like,
it's just little
the
things.
dishes.
Yeah, like, oh my God, wow. Like,
Yeah,
wow,
your
look at
daughter-
these men get praised for doing the most bare minimum things. Whereas when a girl does it, it's like,
Your
oh,
daughter's
well done.
cooking,
It's like,
your daughter's
you're just doing your
cleaning,
job.
she's doing the bare
daughter's looking
minimum.
after the house.
I do all of that. I don't,
Exactly,
I
I
don't
do
get
that.
paid for it.
I do that at home. I what's it called? I clean up. I do my.
But you know
own
what,
laundry,
actually-
I do whatever my mum
Actually, I'm gonna be
asks.
real. Like, I think because like what you guys just said, I don't get praised for it. I think it is just a really small amount that ruins it for the rest.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a little thing where what's it called, the man's praise for doing everything that the women's
Yeah.
praise. Like, so the women's cooking, the women's cleaning, the women's doing
Which is
whatever.
why I think the housewife role, right? It's one of the hardest jobs in the entire world, the housewife. Raising a child whilst looking after your
She gotta
household.
cook, clean, look
But
after
it's the
kids,
one
put the
role
kids to
that
sleep.
doesn't get praised as much as it should, which is why it's so unpopular, why it's now so unpopular. Because I think our
People should
generation
get
is
paid for that
trying,
stuff.
we're seeing that, like, how women are housewives, like, we've seen our own mums, our grandmas, they didn't get praised for that. It was just kind of like, yeah, that's what you need
It's
to
just
do.
what they gotta do.
Yeah.
Basically, that's
Because
what
they
Yeah.
weren't praised for it. They weren't kind of like saying, wow, look at that, she stayed home, she took care of her family, what an amazing woman. It was just kind of like, yeah, that's because back then they weren't afforded opportunities to go and work and do all of that. But now we are able to do that. And I think that's just kind of the generational divide does come into play there.
I think the problem is that they don't even address these issues. So if they don't address it, they're not going to fix it. Do you get it? This is why it's still happening.
And I think another thing, if we bring it back to like South Asian women, bring back like the Sarah Everard thing that went viral, like her case, how popular it became. But then, do you know who Sabina Nessa is?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
That name. So basically, she's a woman about a couple of months ago, a South Asian woman, a teacher, who was walking home from work, and she was a teacher, and she got killed. Yeah, but her case did it, like, of course, like, it got blown up because of like the comparison of saying, look, you did this for Sarah Everard, a white woman who again didn't deserve anything that she happened to her. But look at that difference, or bring it back to intersectional feminism, between like a white woman and like a female, a woman of color. They're just there in the legal system, how much we focus more, especially in England, on like white women.
Even when it comes to men as well, like that case where that guy, I can't remember his name, he got murdered by the 4 or 5 white guys at a bus stop. I can't remember his name. There was
That really famous case.
it's a black guy.
That black lab.
I cannot remember his
It's a
name.
very, very famous case. How can I
They
remember
made a
it?
charity of his name.
I did a lot of work on it.
Oh my god, I know George Floyd.
George Floyd's one of
George
them.
Floyd, but the one in
they
the
made a
UK,
charity
it
of
happened.
his
It happened like during the
a long
90s.
time ago. But
It was kind of that
all the
one case
evidence was just
is
thrown
what,
out and
yeah,
all that stuff, like
that
the
case
white-
changed kind of a lot of laws in the UK into
It begins with A, I can't remember his name.
Such
is it Anthony?
Anthony, no.
No. His mom's a baroness now. So basically,
Let me Google it.
yeah, Google. Do try and find that. But I think I want to just talk about like the Sarah and even like Madeleine McCann. She was like her parents were very middle class. She's a white child, and look how much her case has got blown up. Even still today,
literally
like, if you say Madeleine
viral.
McCann,
Like it's still
everyone
talked
knows who
about.
you're talking about. Look how big it blew up. Whereas imagine, like, let's say, do you know any missing kids of South Asian descent, of like African Caribbean descent
No.
that have blown up like that?
Legit.
No. See, because within equality, that is still unequal, and that comes back to that kind of problem, and that racial aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think
That's what I'm saying. It's so much harder for us Asian women.
Stephen Lawrence.
Stephen Lawrence.
That's
yeah.
the one.
Wait,
yeah.
that's such an easy name to
Yeah,
I know,
remember.
you know it,
I
I know.
remember it.
Yeah.
So he
You said
got
you began with the
murdered. He got murdered by white guys.
By this
And
group of white men.
Literally, they brutally murdered him. They beat him up, and he died at the bus stop when all he was doing was waiting for the bus to go home. And then it took so long. Literally, it took years.
Decades.
Literally,
This happened during the 90s, I think. Correct me
It
if I'm
literally
wrong.
took so long.
But
For
it was
them.
in the 2000s when it actually got
Literally, then
investigated.
His mother made a Stephen Lawrence Foundation where she helps people in that whatever's happening, like in the same as her son. Like,
Because the thing was, they threw out a lot of evidence, and that kind of started a lot of social change and a lot of
even
legal
the people
change.
that still murdered him
Because the way
today,
the police investigated it was atrocious. Like, if you look at the report, there's an actual report that came out, the McPherson report, I think it is, which this judge, he kind of laid out a new set of rules for the Police Act to how they investigate, and they have to follow procedure, or else sanctions will. But then again, bringing it back to what I said about the women, rape cases against women, was it more than 99% of women who report their crime, like
it
their
was in
rape,
2012 where he got
the
He
justice.
actually got the justice.
And then we
His
think,
family got
yeah,
the justice that the people were actually arrested, but I think they didn't even arrest all of them.
Yeah.
I think they only arrested 2, or maybe 1, maybe 2.
yeah.
I'm not sure, but
And then if you're talking like within the criminal, like if we bring it to the criminal justice system as a whole, the sexism that goes on within there just is atrocious. Like it's
Mm.
it's absolutely mind-blowing, because it wasn't until 1991 in this country where marital rape became a thing. Like with the case of RVR, you could actually, before 1991, essentially in the UK, you could rape your wife. So yeah, you got a bit of a confused face. So,
You
Yeah,
need the
exactly.
consent.
so basically what happened, because
You didn't
England,
need consent at all.
Is
Like, you could just go.
because the marriage vow, it was seen as
She
the
was
marriage vows was seen as consent enough, because that kind of like ideology was based on a 100-year-old case law. So I forgot what the case was called, but basically, obviously, in the UK, they had a lot of obviously stigma against women, a lot of sexism towards them, and it wasn't until 1991 where this case came, and then marital, you can be sanctioned for, or like, put in prison for raping your wife. But before that, you couldn't, because the marriage vows were seen as enough consent. You consent on the day of your, like, by agreeing to marry this man, you're consenting to that.
Yeah, but I've heard loads of wedding vows never wanted sex.
No, but that's the thing. That's the thing. It's not mentioned in it, but back then it was thought, look, yeah, you can do what you want.
Exactly,
to your wife,
because
it's
imagine the
practically
sexism
saying-
back there, the misogyny.
It's
it-
practically saying the
it was-
wife is
yeah.
your property.
Like, you know
That's
how
what it's saying.
today with like women are kind of seen as a lot more equal. We're not, as men do
Yeah.
not view us as like equal, but we are a lot more equal than we are back then. So imagine that was normalized then, of just treating women like that. Like, once they were seen literally, especially in the UK, they're literally seen as property. Women were seen as property, like, when the giving away of the girl. Because that's kind of like that comes from like a Christian kind of point of view. When they literally saw women as property, and so she was her father's property, and now the father's giving her away to her husband to become her
Practically
husband's
selling
property.
it.
That's where the giving away of the daughter comes from. That's the actual kind of root of it.
Yeah, but see, when they're getting money for it, they're getting whatever. 100 years ago, if a daughter were born, the first thing that people would do is bury the daughter.
Bury the
Oh,
daughter
yeah,
alive,
yeah.
alive.
Alive,
That
that
is
yeah.
so
Bury the daughter alive.
But then
Infanticide.
When this whole money thing started coming into it, oh, we can get money if she gets married, that's when they start burying daughters.
Like, that's wrong on so many levels.
Does it not fear God? Like, that's all I can think about. Like, do people not?
I think that's kind of like it. I don't know. Everyone's different standpoint whether they believe in God or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
So obviously, I think for me personally, I can speak for myself. It's like, obviously, God and religion governs a lot of what I do, my ideology, what I believe in. That's the one thing that governs me.
But also, like, just as a person, like, you
Yeah.
know the difference between right and wrong. Like, who in the right mind's gonna think that
But that's why I
killing
think,
a girl
yeah.
is okay?
No, because I think the way boys are taught when they're like younger, and then the way girls are taught in certain things, it's very different. It's very different. And when I said at the beginning of the podcast, like, boys are allowed to carry on their immature behavior into their 30s.
It's not.
Yeah, but
It's
that's
not
the thing,
right.
boys are allowed to carry on that behaviour, but a man isn't.
A man
There's a
doesn't.
big difference between boys and men.
Yeah.
Like you said, like,
No, okay, yeah, I
men,
get that.
They could be a man, but then they'd really be a boy if they're doing the sort of
That
shit they're
immature
doing.
behavior.
The immature behavior. Let's say they're going around catcalling, horning at women.
Okay, but then
That's the behavior of a boy, not a man.
yeah, but then let's say that, like, you have a friend who's really immature, and he's like older, he's about 30, but he acts like a little boy. He's immature, and he's allowed to, but he will get away with it more than a woman would. It doesn't matter. It's that kind of like, yeah, and all of his friends, let's say he has a friend who is a man who's like, he's on his shit, he's on his stuff, he's working, he's not like messing around. How many times will that man tell his friend, okay, maybe just stop?
150 times, because I do that with my mates all the
Literally,
time.
that's the. There's certain people will tell their mates, look, that's wrong. Let's say you're in a car with some of your mates, some of your boys, you're chilling, and then you see him. Like, this is me. I see him. Let's say if I see him horning at a woman, catcalling, whatever, I'd say, bro, listen, calm yourself. Listen, what the hell are you doing? Listen, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Go
Like,
on,
are you not
see.
embarrassed?
like what? Like, bro, I'd
Innit, man? Why are you
for me-
embarrassing
For me,
yourself?
if I was in
Especially
a
when she
car
doesn't do
with my
anything.
mate with that, I'd say stop the car and I'd get out the car. No matter
I think that
where I was.
lad's mentality, isn't
Yeah,
it?
literally,
Like,
it's lads mentality. Let's
that
say,
kind
going
of
back to
literally-
sociology, where we learn
yeah.
this.
Okay, I want to bring like a topic in. So, like, you guys followed the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial, right?
Yeah.
So, did you follow it?
Not really.
Not really.
I
So
followed
it was this
them.
I
really
feel like everybody followed it without even
it was a
realizing.
big,
Yeah.
big publicized case that happened, in which both of them said testimonies about each other, about the abuse and stuff. And of course, I think a lot of what Amber Heard did, very bad. Do not condone it at all. I'm not saying that at all.
No, she did shit on the bed.
Yeah, exactly. That is in itself disgusting,
Yeah,
and
but,
I do not.
She did abuse
him
Like, she chopped his
100%.
finger off with a beer bottle.
Yeah,
Like, she
100%.
literally just stabbed the beer bottle in his finger and he chopped
But
his
one
finger
thing that
off.
came out of that trial that showed me, it just reinforced a lot of my beliefs, is when she was giving her testimony about the rape, the allegation of rape, that apparently she said that Johnny Depp had raped her. The way people were making TikToks about it, like making fun out of her, like the way when she was saying her testimony.
My dog stepped on a bee.
No, even
Sorry,
then,
I just stepped on my
yeah.
head.
I think even then it's kind of like,
Insert now.
if it was true or not is a whole separate issue. That's something for the court of justice to then decide.
I don't think it should be
Whereas-
publicized. In my
But that's
opinion, it
America.
shouldn't have
That's
been
a whole issue in
publicised.
itself. That's America.
Like, what they say, family law. That's practically family law, isn't it?
No,
Like-
but but the thing is that people get confused. This wasn't a criminal case. This was a defamation trial. This is civil.
Yeah.
This is civil law. This was more to do with their assets and kind of like the defamation of his figure. The testimonies that came in would just kind of added. It was just basically adding onto the defamation that caused his character. That's
Like,
why.
he lost.
Yeah.
He lost a lot. In
Oh,
the
a
sense
lot.
that Disney
But
put
back to
that
my
fight in,
point.
whatever.
Yeah, back to my point. When that kind of just takes a big step back in terms of women who now when they're scared to report their rape. This did not help at all. The way everyone was like shitting on like Amber Heard, which again, yeah,
She
a
was
lot of
wrong
things
in the
she
sense-
was wrong in a lot of stuff that she did, and whether, like I said before, whether or not she was raped by Johnny Depp or not, that is something up to the court to decide. But when she was giving her testimony and the way people ridiculed her, do you now not understand why women do not report their rape? Because you're making those TikToks making fun of the way she's saying it, but then your friends or who have been sexually assaulted, who have been raped, are watching those TikToks.
They're even more scared now
Exactly.
to actually stand up for themselves because
Yeah.
they've seen it happen first person with like big, massive, famous people.
Yeah.
They've seen it happening, but what the hell, in the sense that, look, if they do it, they literally, let's just say they're normal people practically. If they try it, if they try go to court, if they try speaking out against
Look how
it,
humiliated she
they'll
was.
Yeah, like it just.
Am I gonna face that same humiliation? That's what it comes
100%.
back to. And I think so basically, how I said before, I do law, and one of my criminal law lecturer, he's actually a barrister as well. He was a practicing barrister for so many years, and he said he did 15 rape cases as a criminal prosecutor. Out of those 15, he only successfully convicted 2.
I look at that difference.
Even
13
2 sounds like a lot.
Exactly.
It does.
It does,
And
but
look
like
at that,
13 cases he lost.
That's not even half.
because how hard it is to prove rape, and I get it. That is
It's not
there
even a
to kind of
quarter.
protect
It's not even
the
Literally,
defendant, because
like-
everyone is entitled to legal representation, and that is there to kind of like, if he actually didn't do it, then yeah, he needs that. The law needs to protect that. But at the same time, it's
Like, the
so
evidence can be
hard
there,
to
the evidence
because
can
a
be there,
woman
but it's
can
still
get
not real.
raped, and the forensic physical evidence, it's only years later. In most cases, it's years later when then they report the rape, and it's kind of like, well, all of that physical evidence has now been destroyed. And I think the best thing to do if you have been raped or sexually assaulted is to kind of go to the hospital, get the rape kit
As
test
soon as you
done
can.
as soon as possible.
Yeah, see, with
but the thing
women,
is,
they'd be scared.
exactly.
No, it's not even scared.
That's what's-
They've
That's what it
gone
is.
through that pain, that suffering, that literally the mental trauma.
No,
of
can I just
actually
say,
getting
it's not
raped.
even just scared. I think also a lot of people don't even know, or they haven't even realized, or like,
Exactly.
They kind
of
This is
They-
what we
they
talked
block
about.
it out
needs
their
to be put
memories.
out there, like what
what
it needs-
support networks there
like,
are.
like what you'll see
Yeah.
it in the toilets, but let's say,
Right.
are you really gonna read it?
I need a
Are you
fancy
really
one.
gonna read it? It needs to be put on things that people can see. Let's say when we're scrolling through TikTok, the adverts need to be there.
This is the
Literally,
thing.
the adverts that you see on TikTok are for what?
Yeah.
Products that TikTok is selling, but they need to be more put out there in the sense that there needs to be TV adverts. People need to come out and speak against it. Yeah, there's people that do speak against it, but are they heard?
Exactly.
Do people actually hear them? It needs to be put on TV. It needs to be put out everywhere in the sense that people need to start speaking out against it. Let's say people that have been raped that are actually want to share the story. Like the people that want to
I
share
think
the story.
as well, a lot of men need to start speaking about it because women, we can speak about it all day,
But
but our
really
voices
listen
won't
to
be
them?
heard
Nobody
as much as a
listens
man.
to
That is just the reality of it. Of course, that should change, but that is just the reality of it.
But when it comes down to rape, whether it's a man getting raped or a woman, it always comes down to two questions. What are people gonna think? Is anybody gonna believe me? That's all that goes through anybody's head.
100%.
Right. So FGM.
Just FGM.
FGM,
No, okay, so
right.
then I think this next part's going to be talking about FGM, which, if anyone who doesn't know what that is, it stands for female genital mutilation. It's a barbaric practice that occurs in women, little girls actually, if you're being more precise. It's kind of, it happens a lot in, I say, in South Asian and like African kind of communities, because and it occurs in little girls aged between like when puberty starts hitting, I guess. So between the ages, I'd say about 10 to 13, even 14, 15. And it is a big problem that is so well hidden by our communities that it's just not even talked about. Like before, like when I just started talking, I said I want to introduce this topic. You guys didn't even know what that was really, did you?
I knew.
But you kind of knew what it was. No, I'm not blaming anything.
I
So
genuinely did not
no,
know.
it's not
I
like a
didn't know-
blame thing.
I
It's
didn't
just
know
because
FGM, but
Exactly.
I knew about what it is though.
exactly that it's not talked about as enough as it is in terms of like crimes. Do you know what I'm talking about? So it's a really barbaric practice, and I think just that in itself, it happens to little girls, and we're not. What are we doing to protect our? So yeah, you say, oh yeah, that's my daughter, that's my sister, all of that. But then there's this happening, and there's so many. It's happening so much. Like I even have statistics from the NHS website. There were 1,550 individual women and girls who had an attendance where FGM was identified in the period between January 2021 and March 2021.
Is this in the UK?
Yeah, so little girls who have been taken back home,
Oh,
this
wow.
performed on them, and have
You
come
said
back.
between January 2020 and March
2021.
2021. So that's 2 months.
Yeah, that was just
1,000
yeah,
in 2 months.
yeah, 1,500
Oh wow.
exactly. And then so these GPs, they'll go to the doctors and they'll actually find out what's actually happening, because when I say barbaric, it's a barbaric procedure. It really is,
It's
because it is this. It's the sewing up of that area, and there's different levels to it. So, and there's no anesthetic and no sterilization. It's done back door. Older women who get the girl down, hold her down. There's so many. If you read the stories of these little girls, women who come forward when they're older, and they say that experience, it's so heartbreaking, because they were told that from the stories I've read, they've said that their mother or like their sister or their aunties have brought them into this room when they were really young. They didn't know what was going on. They were told to sit down, lie down, and they were held down. So when they'd get really scared, because obviously they were little girls, they would be held down, like have a rag put in their mouth, and basically told to shut up, and then just like let it happen.
That's disgusting.
But the mad thing is it like needle and thread? Is it?
It's
thread or
like
what is it?
needle and like probably like a thick wire type material. I don't really know what the material is.
Like, how can this like?
Because
what
it's
goes,
to
I don't know what goes through their mind. when
see
there's so many
exactly. See, this is to control the woman's virginity, so she doesn't become promiscuous. It's to control her sexual desires. She's 11.
What desires is she gonna have?
Yeah,
She
it's
just wants to go to
because
school.
it's kind of an old barbaric practice to kind of save yourself for your husband. So when they get married to their husbands, that husband knows that he's marrying a virgin girl. That's what it is. Controlling that sexual autonomy of a woman.
Mm.
It's just disgusting.
And imagine
Seriously
then the
disgusting.
pain. So when they do have sexual intercourse with their husband, imagine then the pain of ripping that up. Because you think the men are thoughtful about it.
So they have no choice when this happens. Like,
Because they're
Oh,
held
they know what we
down.
did, but
They
not-
are held
this
down.
sounds like something from back in the days. It doesn't sound like something
Exactly,
from today.
doesn't it? Well, back in the day, it was probably even more
Probably
prominent.
worse,
But
yeah.
now it's probably still as prominent, but so well hidden. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't know about that when you brought it up. I was like, what the hell is FGM?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is just disgusting.
But now you said it on the
But
podcast,
look,
so
the mad thing is, look, for a guy, they don't do anything like that, but for a girl, like,
I think
what they
in
do,
terms of if you're talking about guys, it's the circumcision when they're babies, which has a lot of health benefits. The NHS has said there's a lot of health benefits if you do circumcise a baby, like
it's
a
like
boy.
all cleanliness
Yeah,
and
but
stuff.
that's got nothing
Well,
to
see,
do with it.
that's
innit?
not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, because a guy can still do what he wants to do,
Mm.
even though he's circumcised, but a woman, when she goes through FGM, like,
is that for health benefits? No.
no, it's just...
It's
just
literally all down to
disgusting.
desires, like she said.
It's just
But do
disgusting.
you know when a woman gets married or like they get their virginity tested, does the man get it tested?
A man
No.
can't.
Why?
A
Why?
man
Oh, why
can't.
would they need their thing tested?
No, but even if you could get tested, nobody would test them.
Exactly.
If anything, they need it more
Even
than
more,
we
if you
do.
there's even more like another practice that happens in certain cultures and communities where on the wedding night a woman will have to lay down a white sheet. They'll have sex
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they
yeah, the
literally
blood.
hang it out.
Yeah,
And if it's blood,
I remember doing that in
and
English.
I'm like,
they broadcast it to
Yeah.
everyone saying, "Look,
but they're not.
my daughter is this
virgin.
daughter is a virgin,"
Finally,
and then they like high up
How
in the
embarrassing
society,
is
they
that?
literally hang it up and advertise it to the people that are
Yeah.
walking on the
I
streets.
was talking about this the other day to someone, like how disgusting that is. Like, imagine what's going through the girl's head when she's like
Imagine
they're
the
just showing
trauma.
her blood.
Yeah, the trauma that just goes into that.
And
in
was it
itself.
even like
No,
consensual
never mind the
sex in the
physical
first
act,
place?
the actual mental
Probably
effects it has later on that girl, but that's not taken into account because she's just
See,
an
but then if
object.
she doesn't bleed, then she gets it. In a lot of
Exactly.
Like
people-
some with women,
But the thing
sometimes
is,
they don't bleed if they're gonna have their period.
Exactly.
Women don't bleed.
bleed exactly.
If you go
Horse ride, a
riding,
bike
yeah,
ride.
yeah,
Says bike riding, the
It
hymen
breaks
can
the
break,
hymen, yeah.
and the hymen. First of all, it's a very thin layer of
in there.
skin. Like it's sometimes the way you can even be born and it can be even like half covered. It's not fully. Sometimes it's not even fully covered. So, yeah, just
Like the
It
hymen
actually
can break
shocks
by
me.
literally riding a horse, riding a bike.
bike.
The smallest things can break the hymen. Yet
But look how imagine how fearful those girls are then. Like imagine like when
they
the wedding
just don't
night.
want to do stuff that they don't want
Exactly, because then they're like, oh my god, like what if it doesn't bleed? What am I gonna
to.
do?
What they're gonna resort to? They can't
Exactly,
do anything.
because
They're
they
gonna
will be-
shunned. The society will literally shun them because they can't do these certain things. That is just
Exactly.
disgusting.
I think a lot more change needs to happen in terms of FGM, and and that goes. But then I think Britain and like the legal structure, they kind of scared to maybe put more awareness into it because it affects South Asian communities and people of color. It's kind of do I really want to touch their community? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, really, like, do you know what I mean? It reinforces those negative stereotypes about us. But it is a practice that occurs mainly in our community. It is a bad aspect. Yeah, for a lot of good that we do as Asian people, we bring a lot of life to the party. We bring a lot of our culture, 100%. But there is this negative side to it that we have with our women and our girls, and a lot needs to change.
There's nothing, especially a lot of the girls, there's nothing that they can do about it. Because the mums are like, "Oh, we're going on holiday."
That's what it is, and they trick them. And what's that thing about the spoon? Have you guys heard that?
Yeah,
It's just like,
we talked
so
about
if you
that
feel
last
like you're
week.
going to be
What is it?
go across into your homeland and you're gonna get into a forced marriage, or this procedure is gonna happen to you, you put like a little what's it called, a teaspoon in your like the
In
lining
sock,
of your
I think
panties,
it's sock or
or
something.
like you put it in your
yeah,
panties or
you did
something.
talk about it.
And then so when they go through the metal detectors, it'll start beeping, in which you can then have, when the officer comes to you, you can say, can I talk privately?
But the
and you
thing
can-
is, if you get told you're going on holiday, you're not going to.
Exactly, that's the
That's
thing.
it's
And they're
just-
such young girls, when the ages I've just told you.
They're not thinking.
They're
right,
not
they're
gonna
what's it
know.
called, they
Can you
can't
imagine
control.
being that young and you're preparing for something like that? What the heck?
Never prepared for it though. You could never.
Yeah, you could never prepare yourself fully, but like you have
Because
to.
it shouldn't
If you want
happen.
to protect yourself, you have to have that thought process.
Exactly.
It's just crazy in the way that these things happen. Like, so many people get away with it. Yeah,
Because it happens back home.
That's the thing, yeah.
It happens in the
Like
homeland.
back home, like people, they're used to it. Like
Yeah.
they're used to it happening. So
That's
they're
what
not
it
gonna
is,
say
that
anything.
generational divide.
But over here,
Yeah.
like what we barely even knew about it. We literally barely knew about it. Like this is the first time probably hearing it for some of
Yeah.
us. But like the things that happen, like what are people gonna know? They don't know it's gonna happen to them, so they're gonna go. They're gonna probably get
Under
it
false
done.
pretense.
They're
It's
gonna
like,
get it done, and they're gonna come back, and they're gonna be traumatized. Like they're gonna be thinking, "What the flip has just
you
happened
carry
to
on
me?"
with that the rest. You carry that with the rest of your life, because okay, you can go to the doctors and get a lot of it reconstructed, but it's never.
Well, it's that mental trauma. As
yeah,
well.
that mental trauma as well, because then you've taken that something that should be so special to a woman, you've taken that away from her.
Literally, it's her privacy just revoked.
And yeah, exactly.
practically.
That's what it comes to, controlling women's bodies, controlling their autonomy, their sexual
Then
autonomy.
it comes to pride and ego as well, like with families and their respect, their izzat. You know, what I mean,
Yeah.
families care more about their.
What will
respect.
people say?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Mm.
have you seen that new movie, the new series, Miss Marvel?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but obviously I've
Like,
heard it.
basically
I know what
what
it's
happens in
about.
that, her family practically say to her like she wants to dress up as Captain Marvel to go to Avenger Con, whatever it is.
Mm.
She wants to go do that. The show was actually really good. It's still going on. It's
I know.
actually really
I
good.
think you just say spoiler alert to the
And then
camera.
spoiler alert!
Yeah, so like,
Said it a bit late,
practically
but
what's
okay.
happened is her family said to her, no, you can't go dressed as that because Captain Marvel, her clothes are tight. And her family said to her, oh, what will the area think? What will the people think if I'm letting you go here dressed as this? So her mum,
They aired that.
yeah, no, basically,
It's a kind of
it's
show.
showing. It's
Oh
showing
right,
the
they're
people-
educating.
It's educating the people as this is what happens. Like,
Yeah, good.
it's disgusting in the fact that it happens, but like it's good in the fact that it's getting put out there. People are seeing this is what happens. Like, you know what to
This
do.
is what
if there's
girls
is a
go
problem,
through.
yeah.
This is a real
And then
problem.
like her family finally sort of like adjust to it, sort of thing. But I'm not gonna say anymore because I don't want to ruin it for you if you want to watch it. But I'll tell you something. Like, it puts a lot of the Pakistani, like the Asian culture out there.
Exactly.
It's crazy, but it's actually so good in the sense that everything's out there, everything is shown. Like, there's no cover-ups to it.
And I think it's nice, like as Asian people, to see that because you're like, oh my god, someone
That's-
can hear us.
that's
Representation.
You can relate to it.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you relate to it fully in the sense that we're Asian and we see this happening.
And it's
This
nice
is what
to
we've
see,
lived through,
yeah,
and it's nice to see that it's
someone knows about it and
exactly,
they're
other people are going
bringing
through that.
awareness.
Which
Yeah.
then that starts the change, doesn't it? That
Mhm.
that
Like, these
actually fully
small things,
understanding a problem.
mhm,
That's when you can start
these
changing the
small
problem.
things make a big, massive difference.
100%.
In the
They
sense
need to start doing
who
that
would have
more.
known a Pakistani person is going to make a Marvel show.
Sure.
That's literally
Marvel
like
is
alien to
so
some people.
big right now. Marvel is huge.
And it was a South Asian girl, a
Literally,
Muslim South
yeah,
Asian
exactly.
Pakistani
Like, the
girl.
whole family is Pakistani.
So many minorities just put into one.
They're speaking Urdu
Legit.
in it. Like, Urdu is majority, like a big, massive.
Part of our
Literally, like,
culture. It's the
even
language.
Even in the show, like, Urdu is spoken so much. Like, people are thinking, like, wow, like, people who have never heard Urdu before, they're gonna hear it and they're gonna be like, wow, like, I've never heard this before. And then they're gonna think in their mind, look, there's not only this side that I need to think about. There's so many other things I can think about.
Do you know what makes me so angry? Like sometimes their reaction can be really bad because they're like, why are they showing this? Or like, why they're talking about
I
this?
swear it got banned in Saudi or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to
because
say.
I think it
It
was
got banned in. I'm sure it was
no,
Saudi.
something got banned in Saudi because it was a gay.
The Toy Buzz
Lightyear, yeah. Because
yeah.
there was a gay but
Lesbian kiss.
It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
it was like 20 minutes into the movie. They're like a 5-second clip. Well, just Saudi, a lot of countries they banned it.
Which of course I think that's another problem in itself. Like that's like probably another topic for another day, because of the fact that Saudi Arabia is a very Islamic country, isn't it? So, and of course
Well,
Islam.
yeah.
The reason why Islam
Yeah.
is like it doesn't tolerate, it doesn't. That I think that's another topic for another day. I think if we're taking it back to again, feminism and women, I think it is so nice to see that representation of a South Asian Pakistani Muslim girl,
100%, like, it's just showing.
because
this
then
is
in
actually
a positive
happening.
light as well, and it's not as like
It's not
the-
negative. Because
we're not a
most things you see
sidekick.
on TV,
Exactly, we're
it's
not
all negative.
exactly. It's not like a side. We're not a sidekick. We're not a plot device used by the media to kind of show the white woman as a hero or the white man as the
It's
hero.
actually a Pakistani
We're the
girl, an
hero
Asian
ourselves,
girl.
which is 100% the truth.
It's amazing that this is actually shown so good. It's depicted so well.
I want to watch it now.
Literally, it's genuine. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch it on the. it's a
And I think
website.
in terms of
If you're on the website,
feminism,
I'll give you just watch
yeah,
it. It's so
Disney
good.
Plus is yeah. I think
Disney Plus is so good.
Feminism
So what's it called?
in-
Mrs. Marvel.
Miss
It's called
Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
Miss Marvel.
because
Oh.
she's a teenager, isn't she?
Yeah, she's
um,
it's so good.
I think feminism in the media, the way that's portrayed,
And
is
then it
really
even
bad.
it even talks about the colonialism of Pakistan.
Yeah.
When the British took over Pakistan, it
And
talks
how
about-
much
there's
that
certain
damaged.
scenes of it,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
pictures and videos of the people. Like, I don't know if you know, but like when they go on the trains to leave India to go to Pakistan, the amount of people on them trains, people was on the roof of the trains, people were on the sides of the trains, people were literally on the back of the trains, and so many people died actually trying to get into Pakistan because India was oppressing the Muslims, the Pakistanis. Literally, India was oppressing them to the point where they were burning their farms. Like, it's just mad.
Yeah, I think a lot happened during the partition.
The partition
that's-
was crazy.
Yeah, because during the partition time, again, that links back to
That's
colonialism.
we're gonna have to
Another,
talk about
another
it.
topic for another time. Bring it back to women.
Literally, it's so good. Like,
Yeah.
you need to watch it.
Yeah, I want to watch it now.
I think I said
I'll give you a website. I'll give you a website.
we don't condone illegal activity.
No, it's all legal.
I think no, bringing it back to what I was saying, feminism in the media. So when I normally ask men, okay, what do you think of feminism? And they say to me, oh, I do not subscribe to that. I do not think it's something I want to get involved with. I don't want to talk about it. I go, what do you think so I said to him, what do you think when you think of feminism? So like they'll say women shouting in the streets, or those really extreme kind of, and that's radical feminism. That's like a little minority of women who subscribe to that. When in fact, exactly,
there was two types of suffragettes:
the suffragists and the suffragettes.
The violent ones where they throw there was a story where they threw this woman that threw herself in front of
the
a horse,
and
she died. They were burning letters.
Exactly, but see, when we needed the social change, then we needed violence. They needed to take a bit of a stand. Do you know what I mean? To get those initial rights, violence did need to be used there, and of course, right now, we can do peaceful protesting. It's a lot more accessible. Women, we can protest a lot more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That social change has occurred, which I think is a really good thing. A lot of good came from the suffragettes. Do you know what I mean? They were
100%.
the starters of it all.
At the end of the day, they got the women the vote. Then again, it was
only
rich women.
Yeah, it was
The
only
rich
women over
women,
40, white women.
They had the money to.
Which that opened a lot of doors.
They did get the vote in the sense that it started a chain reaction.
Yeah, it's the chain reaction. That's what it is.
Today, but
exactly.
At the end of the day, it needs a lot.
And feminism is so much more than the radical side of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's equality. It's essentially equality for both women and men, because men do go through a lot of things because of the patriarchy, because of the system set up. There's a lot of like toxic masculinity.
Well, if you see a man working a proper a graft, let's say a 9-to-5 job, people look down upon him saying you're only earning this much.
Look at the toxic culture of men on how
men put,
for example,
down.
Andrew Tate. If you want to bring it there, Andrew Tate, and how he says, "Oh yeah, you're such an idiot for going to university." He made this one TikTok where he was basically crapping on men who go to university, and oh yeah, maybe one day I'll become a doctor.
Boy, he's talking about people drinking sparkling water. What is the difference?
Okay, you know what? I do actually like sparkling water.
Yeah, but what's the difference? In the sense, look, it's water. You know what I mean?
But the thing is, he's a bit of a.
The main people
Andrew Tate's very clever, because I think this front that he puts on is a character.
Well, at the end of the day,
that's what I was saying.
Character.
TikTok, but that was his plan.
Exactly. He's so clever, and then
to take over TikTok.
Exactly. He probably doesn't even believe half the crap he says, but he knows there are men out there
before he even starts.
There are men out there who will subscribe to that.
His lines,
in the sense that he's so for Islam, he is in the sense that have you watched the videos that he's talking about Islam?
I have a problem with that. I have a really big problem with that when he talks about Islam, because one, he's not a Muslim himself, and second, he praises Christianity a lot as well. He talks about Christianity and Islam a lot, and I've seen 2 separate videos where he said in one video, "Oh yeah, I now am a Christian. Yeah, the Orthodox Church, yes." And then he'll say in another video, "Yes, I'm a Muslim, the Quran, this and that." And I'm like,
inshallah.
I'm taking it out of Will Smith's book, "Keep Islam out of your mouth." I'm sorry, but don't, because the way he interprets
just stop
to a misogynist, I can understand why Islam would be really appealing. I can understand that, because the way certain things can get taken out of context from the ayahs of the Quran, the way it can be taken out of context in the way we treat women and stuff like that, it can be blown out of proportion, which is what Andrew does, and he's very clever in that. So the Pakistani Muslim men that subscribe to that, who then use that ideology, that kind of oh yeah, but then it doesn't matter if you're saying about women, because he talks about Islam, he's putting us out there.
What he does say about women is 100% wrong. Like the stuff that he says.
Exactly.
Look, he says, "Oh, what's it called?" I remember I watched the video. He said, "If you see a woman, this is what to do. Go up to them, talk to them, ask for their Instagram." And then if they do give you Instagram, that's when you can get their Snapchat, their number. That's when you can do whatever with them. Whatever, they're yours.
But then that means she's a slag.
Yeah,
look, this is what
he's saying. He's clever in the sense that hiding the stuff that he says. He hides a lot.
Yeah,
of
it's a character. Joey Essex is.
Yeah.
He's a big reality TV star. Came from Tawi. So during the earlier days of when he was coming up, he put on this really dumb persona of acting really stupid. The guy's a multi-millionaire. He's not an idiot. Do you know what I mean? He's not this big idiot that the media then pushes out, because that's what he wants to be pushed out as. So then he gets all that money. It's this exact same thing.
That's what I'm saying
and people
about-
don't understand that about the media. What you put out in the media, it's not always true.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying about him. Like, he says all these different things about these different like topics.
And I think so.
they
We can
all
talk about Andrew
contradict
Tate
each
all we
other.
want.
Literally,
The
they're
guy's
all
still making
so-
millions. Do you know what I mean? Join Hustlers University.
Yeah, but
No,
he's
don't.
clever, but in the sense the stuff that he says,
It's very wrong.
it's wrong.
It's completely wrong. But then we praise him all when he talks about Islam. Wow, yes, at least he's putting us on the map. No, that is still really bad. Like,
He talks down on a lot of
No, people like him are not take seriously.
like he
at
said
all.
that one story.
Dead, basically.
Is it still recording?
Still recording.
That's fine. As long as it's still recording, whatever will stop.
What does Barry dead mean?
Shall we talk about 10 minutes?
Back to that 1%.
Should we talk about the Andrew Tate
Let's
thing and
finish
then
off then.
finish off?
Unless you wanna use your phone.
No, finish off. Just quickly
Just
finish.
finish off.
Yeah.
I want to eat, man. I don't
I
care
think-
anymore.
Oh!
It's in the thing going inside the
Okay, it's
little
dead.
thing.
So let's just
We need to do-
put the picture up. Just put a picture up. Let's finish this conversation off. We could edit this bit out. That's fine.
Okay. So what I was saying, the Andrew Tate story, he basically was telling the story on a podcast saying how he's got a friend from Dubai who's really, really rich sheikh, and he is a Muslim. And he basically says that he went out to London with him one night, and he has this one girl which he goes out with a lot, and he goes to him, why don't you marry her? Like, you're always with her, all of that. And then he was like, no, I'd never marry one of your women, because she was a white woman from London, and she was like, I'd never marry one of your women. I'll just mess around with them, but then I'm going to go back home to marry a girl. I would never. And then he was like, and that's why I respect Muslim men.
At the end of the day, that
Like, what?
They're Muslim men.
What?
They might be Muslims, but at the end of the day, they're
The
committing
hypocrisy.
The biggest sin.
It's the hypocrisy of
They're
it.
committing zina. You know what I mean? It's one of the biggest sins
Yeah.
to ever commit.
And I think, exactly, it's the hypocrisy. But that's not what a Muslim man should do. He's not allowed to do that. Do they not understand? But see, exactly. So when he talks about Islam, he knows he can target a certain target audience which will agree with him, and that's when you can justify his words. Because once he's in there, and
But also
you do understand, he donates about 20 grand a month to the Catholic Church, to the Orthodox Church.
Right?
But
He's just
he
a
praises
confusing
Islam.
guy, in the sense
And
that
he goes that, I hate lazy Christians, blah, 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 blah. Like, people who don't follow the religion. Like, you either die for it or you're not it. But then, he's there talking about Christianity and Islam, which are two different religions. But of course, the
100%.
Abrahamic religions. But,
yeah.
like, of course, I'm a Muslim, so I believe that Islam is the true
Yeah.
religion. So,
He's a confusing guy in the sense that he says one thing, but then he switches to another thing. Then he goes back to that one
exactly.
thing.
He talks so much crap that you just, at the end of it, you're just like, what is he saying?
Andrew Tate, you better watch this.
Oh my God, Andrew Tate, please don't come for me.
So, finishing.
Finishing up the podcast.
So
Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something new.
Yeah,
and
I
we'll see
hope.
you next week.
If anything, I
Bye.
hope if anyone watched this, maybe you don't agree with every single point I've given, but I hope like it's made people think. Maybe just made you stop and think about certain things. You don't even have to necessarily agree with it. So I think that's the main kind of thing, isn't it?
thank you very much, guys.
It's very, very good.